It may seem simple, but sometimes finding the right hardware for the job is easier said than done. Screws are a great example. If you ever found yourself wondering which one will work best for your latest project, here's a little help. After that, I'll show you how to pick out the right lumber. Hey guys, today we're going to talk about fasteners because it's one of the biggest mistakes that I see made on a project. You can be diving in, and if you use the wrong screws or nails or whatever you're using to put things together, it's going to come apart. So let's talk about it today. One of my favorites are structural fasteners, and you hear me talk about it all the time. These are meant to hold things together, and they're architecturally or engineered to hold things together. So these are all meant to put together beams, posts, all those kind of different things. If you have to have it holding up weight, a structural fastener is the way to go. Now the secrets to these is really to make sure that you've got the right fastener in the right length, because you want to be able to attach those things together. Don't be using the yellow gold deck screws to hold these things together. This is what you want to do with that type of project. Now let's go over and take a look at some of the other ones here that we can use on a project, depending on if you want it to look clean or if it's something that's just supposed to be bulky and strong. All right, when it comes to putting trim together, and especially outside, I like using some of these trim head screws. These are color matched to go with a composite deck, but you know something, you can use these on trim as well, because they're a really clean way of doing it. They'll hold together, because what happens is when you put a nail together outside, that wood can expand and contract with the moisture of the dry, and that can come loose or come out. If you've got the threads, it's going to hold it together much better. And you can take it back down if you have to do anything behind it. So it gives you a couple good options. Now let's go over and take a look at some of the other systems we have here, because there's a ton of different ways to put some trim together. If you're putting together a deck, especially with a composite deck board, and you want to have hidden fasteners, this is one of the great ways to do it, this camo system here. As you can see, this actually spaces and allows you to put a hidden fastener in the side of it without having to use these deck clips. So it's a really good way of holding it together without seeing those top screws. Now there's a lot of different things out there as far as when we get into edge locks and things like that. You can actually get into these type of clips where they go in the side of the groove and the screw is now in the gap between the deck boards as well. So that's another way to do it. But if you've got in our northwest weather, I don't like these as well, only because when we get all the trees and stuff down in there, the dirt really sticks in that. So it tends to grab it, which means it's a lesser life on that deck. So anything you can do to keep it clean, this is a better way to go. Now we talk about another trick of keeping it clean. I do like using these different type of flashing systems. So these type of things you cover on over the top of your deck joists, and you put it down. It's a waterproof, so that way when you put down that deck and you're putting the fasteners through it, this will seal up around it, and that way you'll get the most out of that deck framing, because if you're going to get 30 years out of the deck boards, you want to get 30 years out of the framing. So those are some basic rules for fasteners to make sure your project turns out the right way. Hey guys, today we're going to talk about using the right wood for the right project. You know, when you walk into a lumberyard as a consumer, it can be very overwhelming on getting the right kind of wood. So let's talk about using the right kind of wood for the right project. So if you're going to be building something outside, let's say it's a deck, it's a patio, it's a porch, whatever with wood, and it's going to get wet, you want to use the right materials. For instance, for ground contact, there is nothing better than this right here, and that is your typical pressure treated wood. And why they call it pressure treated is they actually sit there and inject these chemicals inside the wood. It's a copper-based material. It's not the old stuff that was so dangerous, and it's going to keep the bugs and the wood rot away. Is it perfect? No. But can you get decades out of it? Absolutely. Now, that's not a good decorative wood, but it's good for framing. If you want something a little more decorative, you can go over to cedar, for instance, like this. This is a good natural way to go. No chemicals or anything on it. But for trim, for decking surfaces, if you want that fresh, real wood look, there's nothing better than cedar out there, and it's going to hold up for a long time. Now let's go take a look at a couple other wood types, and I'll show you the differences so you can help understand it. All right, that general white wood that I'm talking about, yeah, it's your 2x4 that you see, just like these trusses right here. This is great for interior framing, and you know something, it'll do great for that. But if this is going to get wet, in a couple years you're going to be swapping it out, because it's just not going to hold up, and you can't even paint it or anything like that to it. It's just going to rot really quickly, and you're going to do it again. All right guys, there's a couple different pressure treating methods out there. This green stuff is another one right here. This stuff with the 0.6 CCA, this is really meant for putting underground or right in the dirt contact. It's gonna hold up the best for you when you're using it outside. All right guys, there's a ton of different composites on the market out there, and they can be really confusing as a homeowner. This composite decking is a great product to be using, but you can also be using the trims and everything else around your house. So when in doubt, lean on your local lumberyard representative, bring your plans in, tell them what you're gonna tackle, and that's a great tip to make sure you get the right materials every single time.